Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do the introduction. You can go ahead with the welcome.
Okay, sir. So, good evening, everyone. Along with the Mental Health Webinar Series core team and the organizer, the Department of Psychology, the American College, Madurai, and the associating partners, Madras School of Social Work, Chennai, MS Chalamuthu Institute of Mental Health and Rehabilitation, Madurai, Red Pond Educational and Psychological Research Center, Madurai, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, Madurai, and Psycho-Oncological Association, Turkey. I welcome you all to today's session, all the participants and also the resource person. And today is with us Mr. Gopi Rajendran, who is currently a consultant psychologist at Ahana Hospital, Madurai. And today we are going to hear from him the protocol of psychologists in mental health services. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation and being present here this evening. We welcome you. And now I request our Dr. Suresh Kumar sir to talk a few words about the speaker to the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandra. Very good evening, one and all present here. I'm really happy to introduce the speaker to the audience over here. Mr. Gopi Rajendran sir is known to me for 5 to 6 years back. And we met many occasions and we attended few programs together. And I know him personally. He is associated with Ahana Hospital. When I was as a faculty at Rajiv Gandhi National Institute, we sent our student for intensive at Ahana Hospital, where he is the person who given instruction to my students. So I witnessed his supervision to my students and got a feedback from them. And then the very next time I came to Ahana Hospital and I got an opportunity to listen few sessions of him. This is about how we associated, and I would like to say his career transformation, and he is a former army man, and that shows that systematic person, one thing. And second one is he very fascinated in psychology, and he has done his masters in Bharatiyar University, and later he associated with Dr. C. Ramasubramanian sir, and you all know that working under psychiatrist, unless if you are having the smartness and you are having adequate knowledge, we cannot sustain. And he is a senior psychologist at Ahana Hospital, and when we were discussing about many times, he is more confident. We know that there are, you all know that the clinical psychologist and there is a psychologist component. And he says that, yes, I know, I learned many from the psychiatrists as well as clinical psychologists, and open to learn that quality I can find from Gopi sir. And one more thing I like to say here, and recently he got an appointment at TNPSC, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission, Group A posting. That is a research officer at Tambaram Mental Health Institute, where he is going to become a psychologist. So this is about recent add on that. I think for this topic, I had many persons in my mind. I would like to say that. See, we refer many textbooks and many components, and we are sharing that theory into that students as well as the participants. And the experience sharing is totally different. The theory and practice are almost, most of the time we can see that at least 20 to 30% compatibility we cannot be able to find. And who can be able to give those components? A person only who is working in that setting, he can be able to say that, okay, what is the protocol we have to follow? And many people, those who are having their own clinical, own psychological counseling center, or if they are associated with any kind of hospital, even government and non-governmental organizations, they don't know what is the thing they have to do that. The protocol means the rules and regulations they have to follow when they were appointed as a psychologist. There are many of them, they are not having the clarity. To get clarity about those things, so I found Mr. Gopi Rajendran sir is going to present his experiential sharing, I can say. It's not about theoretical input, it is about experiential sharing based on his experiences at Ahana Hospital. We are very happy to invite you as a speaker for our webinar, sir. And it is our time to listen from your words. Over to you, sir.
I hope. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh Kumar sir and Dr. Chandra ma'am. They have given me a good introduction about me, about my experience, about my past life, and the friendship which I had with Dr. Suresh sir past 5 years, everything which is something new. It's overwhelming. But I don't know how I am going to fulfill my this class, Suresh sir told me that, sir, the class ninga eduthunga. I hope everybody is listening. Everybody is well known with Tamil. I hope, isn't it?
No, many of them are from other state here in Pakistani, and some of them.
Okay, okay. Then I need to be very particular about language. Okay. Basically, I studied in Tamil language during my school days, and then I completed my courses in English. But still, though I speak in English, my English is little poorer than my Tamil. If you ask me to speak in Tamil, even psychology in Tamil, I'll be very good in speaking Tamil, but I I hope I may satisfy you in this next 30 to 40 minutes of session about the protocol of psychologist in clinical practice. Okay. Let me say that I finished my master's in applied psychology from Bardha University in 2009-11, and then I was searching for a job, and then I got a job in Ahana Hospital, where I was a very pioneer, very junior person who I don't know anything about what is clinical psychology or what is clinical interview at all. So, since Dr. Suresh sir asked me to share your experience, I am sharing my experience. I hope this experience of my 10 years of practice will help you all people to how to lead or how to see how to handle psychiatric patients, especially psychiatric patients attenders. That is more important concept in psychology. If you satisfy psychology patients attenders, then you are a very good psychologist. I would like to say that. The first day when I attend my interview in 2012 January, suddenly my doctor gave me a case and asked me to tell a diagnosis. It was just a fraction of a moment because the patient was fighting with the psychiatrist. Sir, give me discharge, I want to go out. Sir, give me discharge, I want to go out. Sir, give me discharge, I want to go out. Sir, give me discharge, I want to go out. Same sentence he is repeating almost 50 times, and the psychiatrist in front of that psychiatrist, I am going and I am giving my resume. Sir, I want to become a psychologist in your hospital. This is what exactly happened with me. And the psychiatrist immediately turned the case to me, because he wanted to escape from that case. Okay, you handle this case and come and report. I was handling that case in, you have to go way back to 2012, almost 9 years back. No, I was talking to that boy, and then the boy was repeatedly telling, "Sir, நான் நல்லா தான் இருக்கேன். எனக்கு என்ன பிரச்சனை? I'm good. What's wrong in me? Why are you people are if I supposed to speak in Tamil, I could have been very familiar what the patient spoken to me, but the people from many different language, I supposed to translate the scene. Consider that here the video is subtitle, the audio is is not a subtitle. The patient was, sir, let me go. I'm good, sir. I'm good. I'm okay. Then I went to the doctor and I told the doctor the diagnosis is acute stress reaction. Because when I tell that diagnosis acute stress reaction, doctor asked me what was the reason to tell that acute stress reaction. I told that the boy had a fight with a friend. So I don't know exactly. No, you all could have been experienced such kind of situation. No, just because the boy had a fight with the friend, the boy became mentally ill. Doctor asked me. I was I was not able to answer, but I was, I'm a bit adamant person. I stand what I'm standing. And then I said, no, sir, because of that reason, the boy is stressed. So that he is suffering from stress. If you release the patient, the boy will become all right. Then the doctor told me, if I release the patient, the boy will kill somebody or harm himself. Killing somebody is something very rare, but he will at least spend a lakh or sold things or waste things at home. That is not at all possible for the family to recover within 2 years. Which means the doctor told me that the patient whom I kept in my hospital is not only a patient whom I kept in hospital, is a patient whom I tried to save the family and the family wealth and the family finance and the family welfare. Then I come to realize, no, whatever we studied in abnormal psychology, what is mania, what is schizophrenia, what is OCD, all those things, I came to realize that there is a huge difference between what we have theoretically studied and practically seen. And you don't, and for your own concern, I have been working in this field for the past 10 years and still I doubt myself. That is the art of psychiatry that has been transformed to me through my senior psychiatrist, the chief psychiatrist of our hospital, Dr. CRS, who has 43 years of experience and still doubt himself. That is the art of psychiatry. That is the art of psychology. Psychiatry and psychology is no big difference. I would like to tell everybody in this forum, I hope everybody is listening to me and my voice is clear to everybody. Psychiatry and clinical psychology is no big difference. The only difference is they prescribe medicine and we don't prescribe medicines. That is the only difference they and we do have. The difference in that sense, we do therapy, we do as they are well expertise in medications and treatment, like anything related to pharmacology or neuropsychopharmacology, what they have been expertise. We have been expertise in many ways that behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and remedial education, childhood therapy. Any you take a disorder of developmental disorder, the role of psychologist is high and the role of psychiatrist is low. And they do agree that. Because we cannot give so much of medication to the child. We only can train them. So my experience in protocol of psychiatry and psychology, being a psychologist, I have come across in my 10 years of experience, I would have been seen almost 10,000 new clients. I would have been taken case histories of 10,000 clients. Though we classified them into some things like depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, social anxiety, or health anxiety, or schizophrenia, or bipolar mood disorder, currently mania, or somatization disorder, or OCD, or any kind of addiction disorder, or kind of any developmental disorder. The experience of being a psychologist in clinical practice, you though a clinical psychologist or a master in psychology, a psychologist, the protocol which I felt is five things. The five things are: the first and most important thing is pathology, psychopathology. What is the patient suffering? That is the most important subjective expective skill. What is the patient suffering? You may be thinking that the patient having the first important the first mistake what we psychologists normally or commonly do is we start seeing the client, and we start listening the client, and we start counseling the client. That is the most biggest mistake which we commonly do. I did do, and I still have the urge to do. I would like to say that I don't want to be a good person in this protocol. The first most important thing is, whenever we see the client, sir, come sir. Yes sir, sit sir. Hi, how are you? Yes sir, I'm good. Yeah, what is your problem sir? How are you sir? What things are going sir? We start questioning, we start asking, we start trying to establish rapport with the client. As we establish the rapport, unknowingly, subconsciously, we get along with them. The most biggest mistake is we unknowingly get along with the client. That we should be very, 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 very aware of it. We are from this side, and the client is, there is a table between the client and the therapist, and the table is not just a table. The table is going to tell you that you are a therapist and he is a client. That is the most important space which we need to develop, which I had experience and still I have experience. Why I do say this? Why, sir, you can ask me, even after 10 years, why do you have this experience, sir? Why are you not able to be a so-called professional with them? Because we can't be so-called professional. If we are going to be the so-called professional, we'll be ultimately failed with them. There is a thin layer between sympathy and empathy, professional and personal. That is the art of being a psychologist. Because I had a client who developed a depressive psychosis because her 5-month-old child died. That is called something called SID syndrome. Sudden infant death syndrome. That is called sudden infant death syndrome. The mother fed the child and the child gone to sleep, and the early morning the child is no more. The mother became depressed, and the mother came to our hospital, and the mother sat in front of me, and the mother's mother was sitting in front of me, and I was listening to the story, and my child was 5-month-old that time. When I was hearing a death of a 5-month-old child and the mother is depressed, my child was 5-month-old that time. You can feel the feelings of the situation. Should I be a psychologist, or should I be a common man, or should I be what to say? I leave it to you people. I openly saying that I couldn't resist my tears in front of the patient. The tears are going on my face, but I was listening to the mother. I don't want to leave the mother, so I escalate it to the doctor, and I admit the mother in hospital, and we treated the mother, and we recovered the mother. It happened almost 3 years back, and now the mother is having another child. See, the protocol of psychology, the protocol of psychologists, is very, very complicated. It's very, very complicated. We were being taught to be empathize. We were taught not to be sympathize, but we were never taught to be emotionless, because we are also a human being, right? We too have human feelings. We are a normal emotional beings. We too have feelings. Now, many people ask my friends asked me, my fellow colleagues asked me, என்னடா, you being a psychologist, why are you getting angry? Not, what's wrong in getting angry? Because I'm a human being. I'm a normal man. I'm a man with feelings. If I suppress my feelings, I would end up in depression, isn't it? I hope you do all agree. No, I,
Agree, sir.
yes, ma'am.
Sir, agree with you 100%.
100%. Thank you, ma'am. So, my accepting this webinar of telling about the protocol of the psychologist, I agreed for this session for two reasons. One is, how should a psychologist behave, approach, deal, feel the patient? That is my first priority. Second thing, what is my limit? What should I do? Do I have to, do I have, do I have this case with me, or do I have to hand over this case to other, or do I have to handle this case with the help of the psychiatrist? This is my agenda for accepting this webinar. So the first is, as being a psychologist, what suppose I do? Do I have to do? The best psychologist is the best observer. Best observer is the best psychologist. No, I am observing Miss Induja. Miss Induja is smiling. Miss Induja is notifying her nose. When I say Miss Induja is notifying her nose, she is smiling, which means her attention is good, concentration is good, she is able to listen to me. As a best observer is the best psychologist. If I have a chance to speak to Miss Induja, I would have been able to tell what she is suffering from. Okay. So the first and the most important thing is observation. The facial, biological, physiological, the body language and the facial expression gives you a lot of clue about the client you have. If the client's body language, always remember, you are a psychologist and you observe people. You don't judge people, you observe people first. Based on your observation, you come to a judgment about the person. And the judgment is the provisional judgment, is not the final judgment. That is the most important thing which I have come across in my life. As I observe Miss Induja, Now, let me come to a provisional judgment. Ms. Hinduja, are you okay for that? Yeah. Miss Hinduja, I hope other people also be able to see Miss Hinduja's face. Yeah. Miss Hinduja would be probably between the age of 20 to 25. And having a smiley face, welcomed, groomed, dressed, responding, and her eye contact, though we cannot say that her eye contact is good with the therapist through webinar, but still, as she is keeping her eyes with the camera, I could say her eye contact is good. So now I am coming to a conclusion that Ms. Hinduja is a normal, jovial, active, proactive, participative person who is taking every chance to proceed to success, to proceed to achieve, at least to proceed to learn. She doesn't miss any chance which gives her a choice, a chance to learn. Through learning, she will achieve, she will improve, she will grow. This is her positive side. But I'm not a positive person. I'm a clinical psychologist or a person sitting in the room, sitting in the clinical psychology room, at least to say that I have to give some comment about, I have to give some negative comment about Hinduja, then only the session gets complete nicely. Right. So now, a 20 to 25-year-old girl with a smiley face, expressive face, and a listening attitude. She doesn't have any kind of schizophrenia problem. I'm ruling out. Okay, I may be wrong, but this is my first impression. As I speak to her, I will come to know what is she is actually suffering from. But this is the first impression what Hinduja giving me. The first impression is the expertise of, is the art of a psychologist. The biggest thing which we differ from common man. So I rule out Hinduja is suffering from schizophrenia. As we live in Indian culture, we cannot label Hinduja is suffering from any kind of alcohol substance use disorder. Labeling a woman suffering from alcohol use disorder is very, very, they will hit us. In my 10 years of experience, I have seen 5 women alcohol dependent people. In my 10 years of experience, I have seen more than thousands of male alcohol dependent, but only I have seen 5 women alcohol dependent people. So I rule out Hinduja suffering from any kind of drug abuse. I don't rule out, it is my assumption. It is my first impression that. And then I would like to say, Sindhuja is not having any social anxiety. Sindhuja is not having any somatoform disorder. Sindhuja is not having anorexia nervosa. Sindhuja is not having any depressive disorder at present. She may be having a manic episode prior, but not now. So I should not say that she is totally ruled out from bipolar mood disorder. That has to be asked from her lover or the parents. Anyway, there are two things which I supposed to suspect in Hinduja clinically is whether she may have OCD. So this is how you need to observe and grasp things. If Hinduja or Sindhuja, Hinduja. If Hinduja kind of a girl coming to your clinic, the moment all the psychopathology should have been run in your mind, and all the psychopathology has to be ruled out from your mind, and only 3 or 4 psychopathology which you need to be confirmed. Either she has some romantic affair issue which she is stressed upon, or some exam related issues she has been stressed upon, or some OCD anxiety related issue she has been stressed upon, and then nothing to say that. Now, these are the, again, I'm saying, I don't say that there is no chance for other disorders, but the likelihoodness of possible disorders. And the most difficult thing for a psychologist sitting in the clinic and saying that you have no problem. Because the rule is, the thumb rule is, when a person comes to your chamber, we give a diagnosis to them. Isn't it? When a person comes to your chamber, we give a diagnosis to them. That is something very, very, very difficult situation for a psychologist and a psychiatrist, because we are living in a society where coming and seeing a psychiatrist itself a big stigma. In that situation, a person coming and seeing a psychologist or psychiatrist is again, we will be doubting ourselves whether are we dealing a real case or a duplicate case. We don't know. So the first agenda of taking this session is observe patient. Back of the mind, there are 300 symptoms. 300 to 500 symptoms at the back of the mind running in your running. The 300 to 500 symptoms clustered into 100 types of diagnosis running in your mind, and you are observing the patient. Be an observer. Be a careful observer. Your eyes are the witness. Your eyes are going to give you the beautiful picture of the patient, the beautiful history of the patient. Your eyes are your psychologist. Your eyes are going to give the entire scenario of the patient, the entire history of the patient, by the way the patient walk in, by the way the patient talk, by the way the patient behave, by the way the patient express facially, by the way the patient express bodily, that gives you a clue. For me, I would like to say, after this webinar, when you go to home, your mom, your father, your brother, your husband are going to be your patient whom you are going to observe. How are they behave? Are they behave normally? And they observe us. As we observe them, they will immediately question, hello, what? Are you judging me? Yes, I am trying to judging you, but I never been able to judge you. That's going to be the truth. So the first agenda of this class is observe the client. Second thing, never ever underestimate the background of the patient. Never ever, never ever. This is the art I have learned in my practice. There are personal psychopathology which we have understood, personal personality, personal family, personal financial economical background, personal cultural background, personal social background, personal academic background. All these areas are very, very important in terms of understanding the patient and counseling the patient. Personal area, family area, economical area, cultural area, living area, all these are very, very important. Educational area also. So, you will be having one type of tune with a patient who has been from lower socio-economic background with minimum education, and you may supposed to have different tune with higher economic background, highly educated patient. But the treatment is same. The therapy is same. But the way you are delivering it may differ. It needs to be different, because at least at the end of the day, it should reach them. It should reach them. That is the most important thing. Being a psychologist, first protocol you keep in your mind is observe the patient, observe the family, observe the economy, observe the social background, observe the economical background, observe the network of friendship background, observe the community background, observe the cultural background, which means observe the patient and the background. Before initiating any sort of counseling, the first protocol that you have to keep in your mind is observe the patient. as you observe the patient and the patient's background. The patient's background means family background, economical background, social background, community and cultural background, friendship and network background, social network background, educational background, all these background as you observe, and the patient psychopathology. By observing all these background, you will be in a position to take a decision that whether the patient can be dealt simply by me or with the help of a psychiatrist, or the patient is in an emergency condition where I should transfer the patient to an hospital, or I should treat the family members to treat the patient. My chief simply tell, whenever I get a child case, around 8 years ago, my chief told me that when the child has a problem, it's not the problem in the child, it's the environment of the child. Unless otherwise, the problem is developmental disorder. When the child is having an emotional and behavioral problems, it is not the problem of the child, it is the problem of the environment. See, developmental disorder is something which is not in our hand. For example, low IQ, mental retardation, or borderline intelligence, autism, or severe ADHD, or language disorders, or learning disabilities. All these disorders are neurodevelopmental disorders which the environment doesn't play a major role, because the basic brain development had itself a problem. But otherwise the child is anxious, or the child was very normal until few months ago, but the child is not normal now, which means the problem is not with the child, is with the environment. This is what my chief explained to me. So observe the client deeply observe the client with all your psychopathology knowledge. With all your psychopathology knowledge, observe the client closely. That is the first protocol of being a good, expert, eminent psychologist. And the second thing which I would like to tell you is, never hold the case when the case is not under your purview. That is the most important thing that which we need to be very careful. There are many psychologists are listening in this forum, and there may be clinical psychologists, there may be non-clinical psychologists. Always assume that only the patient who has the ability to listen to you or your cases. The first session or second session, or within third session, you will understand that the patient is not my case. The patient may require some other medical treatment. That is the most important thing. And always remember, there is a knife hanging upon your head. There is a knife hanging upon your head. The knife is legal. The knife is family members. The knife is legal issues. So never ever underestimate. I give two things to my internship students. Never underestimate the patient. I repeat, never underestimate the patient and never trust the patient's family members or the patient's attenders, whoever come along with them. These are the two major theme, or these are the two major thing that you have to keep in your mind is never ever underestimate your patient. And never ever completely trust the attenders. They may either give you less information or they may mislead you. By saying this thing, you may people doubt me that, sir, you are a paranoid person. You may people have a doubt about me that, no, sir, I think you are a paranoid person. That is why you are telling all these things. Actually, I am the easily trusting person. I trust people very easily. I trust people very easily in the first sight itself. The first sight itself, I trust people. And I be jovial with people. I be casual with people because, nothing to hide in me. So I be free, I be open. I am the person who trusts people very easily, and I open up myself and I get along with them and make them friendly and I make friendship with them. And I am the person telling you all, when you have a client, never underestimate the client. Never underestimate the client and never trust the family members or the primary caregivers or the attenders who come along with them. And I would like to finish this class with one example. The client who is around 25-year-old, who was taken to a psychiatrist who was a very close friend and senior and guru to me. And the psychiatrist, the client was taken by the friend. The client was not accommodated by his family members. The client was accommodated by his friend. And the psychiatrist saw the client, and then the psychiatrist referred the client to me for IQ assessment. The client is around 24 to 25-year-old, and I did, because the psychiatrist suspected that the client may have a mild mental retardation or borderline intelligence. Both are line to line, no? And I come to know that I developed my usual paranoia was right. I investigated the client, and then I investigated the client's family background, and then the attender whom accompanied with the client, I called upon him. I asked him, then I investigated him. Then the attender gave him a beautiful story that, sir, the boy was house arrested by his family members. I saved him, and I want to him. I want to give him a free and happy life. I want make him to marry and living a free life. But to give him a good life, I want a certificate that he has a sound mind. Then I did IQ assessment. This IQ was about 72 to 72, I think, which is called a borderline personality. Sorry, borderline intelligence. And I was again, my suspicion was right, but you know, the client was above 18 years and the client IQ was right. IQ was 72, so whose IQ is borderline intelligence. So I need not to do anything with that client. So I told the attender that, you know, I just simply told the attender that, okay, you send the client to, okay, the boy's condition is like that. It is better the boy should live with his family members so that he can live a normal life. Then the attender said, okay, sir, no problem. You said the boy is good. I will take care of him. After 1 month, I called upon from CBCID call. After a month, exactly after a month, the CBCID call came to me. Sir, we have traced your phone number and you have spoken to this person 4 to 5 times and we want to have a interview with you. We want to investigate about your client. I said, okay, sir, no problem. Please come. And then I had a chat with the CBCID sub inspector. The CBCID police was thinking that I and that client attender kidnapped the client, and we are giving special training to the client to improve his IQ, so that we plan to grab the 50 lakhs of assets of him. This is what happened to me with that case. But the sub inspector is well known to me, and the police department is well known to me. I simply told, sir, the case came to me. The case is referred by so and so psychiatrist. I did the IQ assessment. Uh, I warned the client attender to hand over the client to his family members, but the client's attender didn't do that. The truth is, the client was actually a seizure disorder plus low IQ seizure disorder patient whose parents died and who is living with his family, the maternal uncle family. And the client, that particular patient, owning around a crores of non-movable assets and one house which is around crores of non-movable assets and some lakhs of movable jewels. All these things are carried by his maternal uncle. And you know who the friend who brought the case to me? He is not actually a friend who was an electrician who went to that house for an electrical work, who developed a friendship with that boy, and who gave him alcohol, and who stimulate the desire of sex, and he took over him. See, that is what I would like to tell you all people, that never underestimate the client and never trust the attenders. Always be cautious. No, our ultimate aim is to trust people and develop trust among people and develop humanity among people. But in your chamber, in your office, in front of you, when the patient is sitting and the attender is sitting, don't trust. Question them. Always question them. Be curious, be paranoid, be unfulfilled, be unsatisfied. Always be in the position that you need more information, you need more information, you need more information, like that. Then only you can be well aware about what is going around on you and what is happening with your client. And the last but not least, psychopathology is very, very, very important. As I see Induja, I judge her something. As I am seeing Dr. Rupa Kar, I am judging herself. I am judging in the sense, how she is, in her age, her listening attitude. As I see Chandra, I saw her. The moment I take her name, she is smiling. That also give me a hint. As I see Dr. Sunny sir, he is listening to me. He is patiently listening to me. I hope his experience would have been relating with me. I'm a very junior to him, but my experience that I share with Dr. Sunny sir may be relating to him, and I expressed what he experienced. I hope you, sir. So the protocol is always, when being a psychologist, be careful, be curious. Back of the mind, there are 300 to 500 psychopathological symptoms: anhedonia, apathy, ataxia, whatever you called. The psychopathology should run at the back of your mind, and you have to clinically judge the patient. What is the diagnosis? Schizophrenia, mania, depression, anxiety, personality, family issue, interpersonal conflicts, attitude problem, addiction problem. Nowadays, there are a new addiction called mobile addiction. So you need to have a pathology at the back of the mind, and you need to be very careful. Don't underestimate the patient, and don't trust the family, the attenders, but try to collect more information. So these are my words. With this, I would like to finish my session. I hope you all enjoy sharing my experience with you all people. I thank you all listening patiently about this session. And I thank you, Dr. Suresh sir, for giving me this opportunity. And I thank you, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Gopi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Sir, actually, personally, I didn't want this session to end. It was that lovely to hear you talking about the real time experiences. And I'm a non psychology professional, sir, but to me also it was very interesting and it was very good to learn, the characteristics of a psychologist when attending to clients and so on. So, what I took away from your session was like the importance of observation skills and how to feel uncontented in the process of a learning journey, and how to trust people, what to trust and what not to trust. So, that was really good to take away. And this is time for discussion, sir. So I request all the participants to unmute your mics to talk to sir or put your questions in the chat box. Sir, I have my first question, sir. You were talking about dealing with attenders are more important than talking to patients in the first place.
Yeah, in some cases, like schizophrenia, mania, and personality disorder, or the patients having poor insight, counseling the patient is second. Educating the family members about the nature of the illness and making them to adhere to the medical treatment, because most of the family members thinking that sorry என் பையன் just give counseling sir, the boy will cure sir. That condition they used to come. So educating the family members about the nature of the illness and about the situation and the need for long term treatment is very very difficult, because the family members are emotionally connected with them, and crossing that emotional bond and educating them is very difficult task. So sometimes educating the family members is the therapy for the entire program.
Thank you very much, sir. Also, out of curiosity, I have another question, sir. Do you encourage the same attender to be with the client, or it is okay that if they keep changing, sir? It is just I'm curious to know that.
Client's attender is somebody who is going to be the primary caregiver. If your husband is going to be the caregiver for you, I cannot change it, right?
No, sir. In some case, I agree to you, sir. But in some cases, no, sir, due to the lack of time or unavailability, people do keep changing, coming with the clients, and that's also a hard part dealing with the case in itself. That I was curious about that. So
Yeah,
dealing
in such cases, once you got to know the client very well about, and once you got to know the client means you got to know the family of the client.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if you ask me, I have 1,000 family history in my mind, at least. No, I don't. I cannot call upon any family now, but when the patient come and sitting in front of me, I can get the family history of the patient from my mind.
Okay,
So
sir.
once you got the history of the patient, which means you got the history of the family of the patient, then you will be in a position to what to do or not to do. That your expertise decide based on the need and based on the situation.
Awesome, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, we have a question in the chat box from Ms. Vijay Priya. She's asking,
Yeah.
sir, we empathize with clients. They asked to measure possibility of transference, which might hinder the treatment.
Yeah, there is always, as I told you, when I was dealing with a client whose mother, the patient is suffering from depression because a 5-month-old child died. And when I was dealing with the client, and when I was dealing with the client 3 years ago, my child was 5-month-old. So we are all, after all, human beings. We get empathize and sympathize and emotionally connect with people. And I would say that it is an experience that make you to create a line between a patient and therapist. There is a transference and counter transference is always there. When you find a transference, you need to be clearly create a boundary with the client. And you can be very open with that. I have client who said, I love you to you. I love you, sir. I don't know, I'm not that good looking person to say that I love you. But I have a client who said, I love you. Then I know the person who is bipolar mood disorder, who will develop manic episode, depressive episode, all those things. So I just nicely get rid of that patient and I hand over the patient to a female therapist. It is a situation where you and your intuition says you that whether you need to keep that client with you or transferring the client to other therapist. Again, remember, treating the client is very, very important, but being safe is more important than treating the client. Because if you are safe, you are mentally, physically safe, you can treat another 1,000 clients. So take a choice based on your intuition.
So thank you very much, sir. We have one last question in the chat box, sir.
Yeah.
It is about what do you suggest for a therapist to be conscious of profession than emotion?
When you deal with the client, in some way the client's history will relay with your own life. There your emotion sparks. When you deal with your clients, let's say let's say that you have dealt with 100 clients. In 100 clients, at least over 50 clients would have touched your personal life, because their history would have been rely upon your own life history. So being conscious and non-emotional is something comes out of your experience, because we will be in a position, we being a human beings, we like to share things. Hey, உனக்கு நடந்துச்சா? Hey, if this has happened to you, yeah, it will happen to me also. This is how we are human being. But being a professional, that sense of distance you need to maintain. Yeah, it happened to you, it happened to me also, but you need to keep it in your mind and act as a professional. If you start sharing everything, see, there is in a therapy skill, there is something called disclosing therapist. There is a point called disclosing therapist. You have to disclose yourself to an extent whether the client feel comfort. It's an art. It comes by experience. That comes consciously. So whenever you hear a client story, you get emotional if the client story touched with your own life story. But there we need to be cautious, conscious, and barrier. And we need to keep that distance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. But your client Induja of the session today has a quick question to ask you, sir.
Mhm.
Induja, please go ahead, unmute your mic.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm really amazed, sir. நீங்க சொன்ன maximum points was real, sir. And எனக்கு இங்க present இருக்க எல்லா peopleஸும் வந்து experienced person, sir. So I'm unexperienced person. First year psychology, BSc psychology studying, sir. Now currently studying first year psychology. So நீங்க சொன்னது எல்லாமே maximum point real, sir. I'm just amazed. How was it possible? ஒரு பார்த்ததுலயே எப்படி இவ்ளோ சொல்ல முடியும்? சார், ஐ ஹாவ் ஒன் கொஸ்டின் சார். நீங்க எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ல தான் வந்து இவ்ளோ கத்துக்கிட்டீங்களா இல்ல தியரிட்டிக்கலா இது பண்ணீங்களா? as a first year ஸ்டூடெண்டா எனக்கு டு பி ஃப்ராங்க் எனக்கு தியரி படிக்க
Please be in English. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Induja is asking me that whether did you learn these observing skills through experience or through theories?
Yes, sir.
That is the question
Yes,
proposed
sir.
by Ms. Induja. It is purely experience, Induja.
Yes, sir. சார்,
But
as ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இயர் ஸ்டூடெண்ட் எனக்கு டு பி ஃப்ராங்கா சொல்லணும்னா தியரி எனக்கு படிக்க பிடிக்கலைங்க சார். பிடிக்கலன்னு சொல்றத விட அது என்னமோ வரலைங்க சார். ஆனா எனக்கு ப்ராக்டிக்கலா பார்க்க பிடிக்கும். எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்டு பர்சனை நாலேஜ் ஷேர் பண்ணும்போது கத்துக்க பிடிக்கும். ஸோ ஆஸ் அ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டூடெண்டா நான் எப்படி இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ணிக்கணும் என்னோட நாலேஜை ப்ராக்டிக்கலா எப்படி நான் கொண்டு போகணும், ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இயர்ல இருந்து எப்படி நான் என்னோட பார்த்து கொண்டு போகணும்? சம் டிப்ஸ் ஃபார் தட் சார்.
okay, I would like to give you. I would like to little bit differ from Induja's demand. In Indian psychology, Western psychology, there has been ongoing research about memorizing skills, and memorizing skill is very important for intelligence. Though you don't like theory, I request Ms. Induja to read upon theories and understand theories and memorize theories, as your memory of psychology rich, your intuition of psychology enriched. So do not underestimate the Indian concept of memorizing subjects.
Yes, sir.
I request, please, though you don't like to study, you don't like to sit and study, I request sit and study and memorize the concept. As your memory rich, your intuition rich, enriched. So studying
Yes.
is very important. There is a proverb in Tamil. I don't know how many of other people will understand. சட்டியில இருந்தாதான் அகப்பக்கி வரும். சட்டியில இருந்தாதான் அகப்பக்கி வரும் அப்படிங்கிறது ஒரு தமிழ் proverb, which means when there is something inside, there is a vessel and you are
We need something to serve, sir. There should be something to serve.
only if there is something inside the vessel you can take it out. Memory is like that. So theories are very important. Through the theories you start seeing the world and you start observing the people and you start analyzing the people and you catch the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very
Thank you,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you for this wonderful explanation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gopi sir, there are many aspiring clinical psychologists in the session, it seems. There is a message. If you would be kind to share your email or phone number in the chat box, I think they can take up discussions with you. Because there is a question asking about guidance towards becoming a clinical psychologist.
Yeah, I don't know how to message.
Sir, if you can tell, I can type it, sir.
1 minute. 965946272. Shall you do it for me? My
Yes,
my
sir, sure,
phone
sir,
number is
please.
9659
9659
462
462
722.
722. Sir, it's 96594 62722.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I'm really overwhelmed attending to your session, sir. It was very inspiring to me. And I hope you are an inspiration to many upcoming psychologists on the way. So we all
Thank
loved your session thoroughly, even if it has been 30 minutes more than what it is. We stayed back to listen to you, to listen to each and every word of yours, because it is making us feel enriched with an experience as well. So beautiful insights, wonderfully rendered, and very kind of you to share all your experiences, sir. We are very much humbled to give our words of thanks. So on behalf of the core team and the organizers of this mental health webinar series, we render our heartfelt thanks to you for your precious time and your valuable experiences. And I also thank all the participants who have been present this evening and traveled with us along. So thank you one and all present this evening. See you all tomorrow in another session, the same time, same link. Until then, it's bye-bye and good night.
Thank
Be
you.
safe.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity. I'm sorry, Suresh, sir. Advantage of talking, but sir, really, I cannot leave this forum without thanking you heads off. I wanted to thank you so much. Great.